Welcome, viewers, to a thought-provoking journey into the realm of belief and worldview. In this video, we aim to engage in a respectful and constructive dialogue about atheism, its core tenets, and the counter-arguments that some individuals and communities hold. My goal is to teach the monkeys that might be called atheists what they don't know, as it's a fallacy, almost shell belief system that has no bearing or understanding of actual religion. I want to make it clear here, I haven't seen a single fucking argument that makes any sense from an atheist in my entire life. First and foremost, I'd like to address the perception that atheists often form a collective of individuals seeking intellectual validation, sometimes dismissing subjects beyond their immediate understanding, whilst praising scientific principles that align with ancient religious philosophies, though they don't know it. An example that immediately comes to mind is Richard Dawkins, who in my view doesn't deserve the elevated status attributed to him. It is essential to clarify that this critique isn't meant to undermine anyone's intelligence, rather it serves as a prompt to encourage our re-evaluation of the sources we rely on for our beliefs and perspectives. In many ways, it appears that atheists may be approaching these matters from an incomplete vantage point. I see this perspective as dividing individuals into three categories: atheists, followed by religious adherents, and finally those whom I identify as religiously enlightened philosophers. It is my assertion that atheists might be prioritizing the wrong sources of knowledge, potentially limiting their understanding of religious and philosophical matters. I propose a thorough re-evaluation of our foundational understanding of religion. Intending to dissect and critique each point meticulously, I argue that ancient prophets indeed possessed unique capacities for foresight and enlightenment, qualities that increasingly get scarce over time. In today's religious discourse, it is often religious teachers who convey the teachings of these ancient seers, rather than embodying their profound insights directly. My point is that the religious narrative presented is just one facet of a much broader religious and philosophical landscape, with additional perspectives existing within traditions like Gnosticism, of which, in the modern era, we are not educated in the least. It is crucial to distinguish this perspective from mainstream religious discourse, as many of these alternative viewpoints have been deemed heretical by religious institutions, often with justifiable cause, but not all of it. Nonetheless, the essence of my argument lies in acknowledging that the ancient seers were individuals who, through philosophy and spiritualism, embarked on a journey towards immortality of the soul, a concept distinct from the idea of being granted eternal life. This distinction is fundamental to understanding the deeper philosophical underpinnings of these belief systems and the pursuit of what could be likened to the philosopher's stone, an ultimate aspiration among ancient philosophers. Now, in the book of Samuel in the Bible, there is a line that calls the ancient prophets seers, so this isn't just me being spiritually out there. They did say it, and if you know anything about the seers, then you can't argue with what I'm saying. That's what the seers are. In conclusion, I suggest that individuals seeking to challenge atheism might find a richer source of knowledge and counter-arguments by engaging with religious scholars who interpret a wide array of ancient texts, rather than limiting themselves solely to mainstream religious documents. However, I acknowledge that this undertaking can be arduous, and many atheists may not have the inclination to explore such a complex matter in depth, which in turn may result in arguments that only scratch the surface of the subject. If I was to point out anybody to listen to in the modern era about religion, I wouldn't point to anybody at all. Okay, I'm religious myself, but you're only going to get the Bible, you're only going to get the Quran, you're not going to get what they actually believed, you're not going to get the philosophy of it, you're not going to get any of it. They stay away from the occult, which, quite frankly, explains the best about what they believed in. I don't mean the dark occults, but the occult philosophies like Hermeticism and Gnosticism, and that's where you're going to find the best stuff. It just is. Really, you can't make a good view on religion unless you're educated in religion, esoteric philosophy, the entirety of history, and that's it. When you're listening to modern people, you're listening to people that have faith. They have had experiences with God. They aren't wise spiritually. They are just religious. And this is why, like I said, I look at it as atheists, then religious adherents, and then enlightened religious philosophers like myself. When I look at the arguments between atheists and religious scholars, oftentimes I'm perplexed that I believe that either party isn't qualified for the argument. Almost all critiques of atheism basically lies on lack of understanding, especially things like, this God says this God says this. Yes, there's contradictions, you just don't know the entirety of religion. I think instead of critiquing what religious scholars write, you should seek first to understand the world itself, what these people actually believed, the prophets, and more, and just get a general overview view of everything. Now, one of Richard Dawkins' main points, upon which he has dedicated an entire book, is the argument that evolution contradicts religious texts. This raises a crucial question. Why does evolution seem to conflict with religious texts? This, in my view, highlights a fundamental issue with atheism itself, a potential lack of understanding of the fundamental principles that underlie spirituality, religion, philosophy, and mythology. Consider the symbolic stories found in religious texts, such as the story of Adam and Eve. These stories are not merely literal accounts, but symbolic narratives that represent profound concepts, including the immortality of the soul, which the ancient philosophers sought to achieve. It appears that many atheists may not have delved into the deeper meanings of these narratives. Furthermore, similar symbolic stories can be found in various religions, even when represented differently. For instance, in Viking paganism, these are narratives that touch upon similar themes. It is essential to recognize that religious texts often provide symbolic wisdom rather than the specific historical or scientific facts. When it comes to the Bible, it doesn't explicitly state the age of humanity. It is worth noting that one atheist's perspective cannot speak for all atheists, just as one religious individual's perspective cannot represent the entirety of their faith. Humans, including atheists and religious believers, are fallible and limited in their understanding. Let's take the story of Noah's Ark as an example. This story, which I've explored in depth in a previous video, can be considered symbolic. It is worth noting that this narrative has ancient origins, and I mean truly symbolic, like they meant it could be, and I'll explain why, as it can be traced back to the Epic of Gilgamesh in ancient Mesopotamia, one of the oldest known civilizations. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story delves into the themes of immortality, symbolized by the quest for a source of eternal life at the bottom of an ocean. Conceptually, in the occult, this represents the infinite sea or space. This is all taking place in the realm of the mind, not necessarily in the physical world, akin to a dream. The flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh is actually the chapter after his quest for immortality, but the end of the flood chapter leads to him holding a plant of immortality, which can be likened to other religious esoteric immortality stories, like that of Hinduism with ambrosia, the nectar of immortality that exists at the center of the galaxy, again taking place within the realm of consciousness, as one whom exists on the planet, making man as God. These stories prevail throughout history, but they're, quite frankly, just not understood by modern man in the slightest. However, it is also worth considering that even with these symbolic representations, there could be an element of reality to these stories. Historical evidence, such as meltwater pulses around 6000 BCE, points to significant floods in antiquity. But besides this, all of Richard Dawkins' points about Genesis now have no bearing to you should you have listened. Lastly, the process of how religious texts like the Quran were revealed is a matter of faith. Muhammad, for instance, is believed to have received revelations through meditation and communication with the Archangel Gabriel. While some may question these accounts, is it essential to approach matters of faith with an open mind, considering the possibility that, from a religious perspective, divine guidance and intervention could have actually played a role in significant events like Noah's Ark, if they was to actually happen. In conclusion, this discussion highlights the complex interplay between symbolic narratives, religious texts, and historical events. It emphasizes the importance of exploring these topics with an open mind, respecting differing viewpoints, and delving deeper into the symbolic and philosophical dimensions of religious narratives. Another crucial point to consider is the tendency to criticize spiritual exploration in pursuit of scientific knowledge. It is important to note that there is a rich foundation in ancient esoteric philosophy that suggests a harmonious overlap between the realms of spirituality and science. In fact, contemporary science advancements are starting to align with ancient philosophical teachings, which posited that our reality may actually resemble a dream more than we had previously believed. The concept of spirit, existing beyond the confines of our physical body, may seem unfathomable without personal experience. One cannot simply assume that this spiritual dimension fully encompasses the entirety of our physical existence. Here, phenomena such as astral projection comes into play. While skeptics may dismiss astral projection as mere dreams, it is worth noting that we exist within a large dreamlike reality according to science and ancient philosophy. A fundamental question arises: why can't we prove this by performing actions upon people in the physical realm during these experiences? While recorded instances of individuals recalling such experiences may exist, it is imperative that we delve deeper into these occurrences to gain a better understanding of their nature. If indeed we reside within a dream, it is akin to being within the mind of a higher consciousness, often referred to as the mind of God. Those who have ventured into astral projection describe a realm that mirrors aspects of unconsciousness, yet collectively it exists unseen, an intriguing aspect of this enigmatic phenomenon. Let's turn our attention to the biblical story of Revelation, where John experiences profound visions while in a heightened state of spiritual awareness. The symbolism he encounters, such as Jesus wielding a double-edged sword, and the mention of 7 stars is significant. The 7 stars may symbolize the 7 planets, they do, while the notion of receiving a morning star relates to Venus, a celestial body intricately woven into various philosophies of illumination. What John witnesses in these visions is, in essence, astral phenomena, laden with profound symbolism and out-of-body experience. It is disheartening to witness figures like Richard Dawkins laugh at stories involving, for instance, flying to heaven on a horse with wings. Such dismissive attitudes may stem from a lack of education in matters of religion and spirituality altogether. To gain deeper insights, it is imperative to explore the phenomenon of the astral realm. Now, I don't particularly blame the atheists, because even religious scholars, largely so, aren't aware of this. Importantly, these ideas may not solely be my own. They resonate with theories of renowned thinkers like Jung and Freud, particularly the concept of the collective unconscious. If we trace our steps back hundreds of years, we encounter ancient mystic texts, such as the Songs of Kabir. In one such passage, Kabir says, "Between the poles of the unconscious and the conscious mind, there the mind has made a swing. Thereon hang all beings and all worlds, and that swing never ceases its sway. Millions of beings are there, the sun and the moon in their courses are there." This simply seems to imply that the realm under discussion, where many of these ancient stories unfold, is the spiritual realm, a realm of unconsciousness, where spirit, subtle and intangible, takes precedence over physical matter. So the best advice I can give to an atheist is to seek more open-mindedness and actually use your brain to think. If something doesn't make sense, ask yourself how it could be so, rather than denouncing the entire thing, as you are probably missing something. Now, I hope I changed some views or made people actually question. If I didn't, I recommend actually listening to this again. Post comments, I will reply to everything, and I might make another video as well. Thank you.